Hey guys, so today I wanted to share some products that I've changed my mind about. Most of these are products that I grew to love after maybe not really liking them or just kind of feeling so-so about them. And I also have a couple products that are the opposite, where I used to love them, they used to be like a holy grail, and now I've kind of fallen out of love with them. So I always find these videos fun to film and to watch because it just goes to show that, sometimes if you try out a product for the first time or even like the first few times and you don't like it, sometimes all it takes is just, experimenting with it, trying out some new ways of using it, and you might be able to find a way that you love it. Or sometimes you might just, put a product away for a couple months, come back to it, and then realize, wait a minute, why didn't I like this? This is actually great. And then, of course, sometimes the opposite can happen as well. But let's go ahead and start with the foundation that I'm wearing today. This is the CoverGirl Clean Fresh Skin Milk. This is a very polarizing product. I know a lot of people hated this. A lot of people loved it as well. When I first tried it, I just kind of felt sort of meh about it. I wasn't really that into it. I felt like sometimes I wore it, it looked great. Other times I wore it, it looked really textured and bad. And I was also having that issue that a lot of people have had with this foundation where it had these little gritty pieces, like little sandy particles that would just kind of sit on my face after I blended it in. Honestly, the longer I've had this, the more I've used it, the more I've grown to just really like it. Now, I feel like it's very reliable. It's a lot more consistent than it was for me in the beginning, so I don't know if my skin type has just changed. But I think the key that I found with this is just to shake it really, really well before you apply it. This formula is prone to separating a little bit, so as long as I shake it really well, I feel like it goes on smoothly, it looks great. Sometimes I do get the one or two little gritty particles on my face after I apply it, and I'll just kind of flick it off with my fingernail, and it looks great. I really like the finish of this. It's kind of somewhere between satin and dewy. It's not super, super dewy, but it just looks really healthy and skin-like. It's what I've got on today. And I also really like the way that it wears on my skin. I feel like because it is a lighter coverage foundation, it just kind of fades very gracefully as the day goes on. So my oils will kind of peek through, and it just looks very natural. It sits on my skin really beautifully. So yeah, I feel like my skin just looks very blurred and perfected when I wear this. So I've grown to really love this. I don't know why I didn't like it at first, but now, huge fan. Now, this actually does contain coconut oil, so that's the only thing. Normally, I try not to use products with coconut oil at all, but this doesn't seem to bother my skin. I just try to make sure that I don't use it too many days in a row, and I haven't had any issues with it breaking me out. But if you're really sensitive to coconut oil, definitely skip this one. For some reason, it doesn't seem to bother my skin. All right, so next product that I learned to love is a concealer. This is the Pacifica Liquid Cover Full Coverage Lasting Concealer. I really didn't care for this as an under eye concealer. It's definitely not full coverage. I would say it's light coverage at best, honestly. If you have anything to cover, it's really not going to cover them that well. And it's also, for some reason on my under eyes, I feel like it just doesn't stay put. But I did find a way to use this that I love, and it's not for its intended purpose as a concealer, but I actually really enjoy wearing this all over my face as a foundation. And I think that's because it's a pretty lightweight concealer, which I think is part of why it doesn't really give me the coverage that I want as an under eye concealer. But all over the face, it's got a really beautiful finish. It's very smoothing on my skin. It wears well. Most concealers I don't really like to wear all over my face as a foundation unless I'm mixing them with another product. Maybe I'll mix them with like a primer, serum type of thing, or I'll mix them with my foundation. But generally, concealers don't work well for me all over the face as a foundation, but this one happens to work really well, and I actually love it for that purpose. I kind of wish that Pacifica would package this product in a bottle of foundation because, I wouldn't repurchase this just to be able to use it as foundation because, you're going to probably fly through it if you're using this as a foundation on its own. Which is actually good for me because I am trying to pan this right now, and I'm going through it really fast because I do just kind of paint it all over my face, blend it in, and it looks amazing. So I never would have guessed that I would have liked this as a foundation, but I'm really glad I tried it because it works amazingly, and now I'm able to actually get my money's worth out of it and put it to good use. Sort of along the same lines as concealer, I also have a color corrector to talk about. This is the Becca Under Eye Brightening Corrector. And even though Becca is no longer a brand, this is one of the two products that is now sold under Smashbox. So it actually does still exist, which is nice. You can still get your hands on this if you want to, but I didn't used to really feel like there was a good place in my routine for really any color corrector. I just felt like they never really did enough to warrant the extra step. And when I initially got this, the way that I was using it was underneath my concealer. And this is a very emollient product, so that's one thing to know about it at first. If you don't like products that are emollient, almost a little bit sticky, you probably wouldn't like this. But I really like how hydrating it is. But the way that I found that I really like this is actually a tip that came from one of you guys, and that is actually to tap it over your concealer. So sometimes I will apply my under eye concealer, even if it's got good coverage. I feel like there's some parts kind of in these like deeper corners of my under eyes where I still just want that area to look a little bit brighter. I want to take away a little bit more of that darkness, and I will just tap on the tiniest amount of this to really just this area right in here. This is typically the darkest part, is like this kind of line right here. And the thing that I really like about this, that I feel like sets it apart from a lot of other products, is that it's very brightening without being too light. It's not like I'm putting on a product that's like 3 shades lighter than my skin tone in an effort to brighten it. This just makes my skin look naturally radiant and bright, and you know, it's got that slightly salmony pink tone to kind of cancel out some of those like dark bluish gray circles underneath my eyes. And doing that just kind of bumps up the radiance of my under eyes, the coverage of my under eyes, just enough to where it really does kind of add something that my concealer on its own doesn't really do. Even a higher coverage concealer, I feel like, can benefit from just tapping a tiny bit of this on top. It's not a step that I take every single day, but sometimes when I just feel like I need a little bit more to the under eyes, this just makes a huge difference. So I'm really glad that I gave this some more chances, because at first I was like, you know, I just don't really feel like this is something that I need. I feel like it's just going to sit and go to waste in my collection, but now I actually feel like it has a really good place in my routine. So if you have this product or a similar color corrector, try it that way, because you might be surprised. I didn't think that I would ever be a color corrector person, but this one, I feel like this is something special. I can definitely see why so many people like this product now. Okay, another Becca product that unfortunately you can't get your hands on this anymore, but I did want to talk about it because my thoughts have really changed on this. This is the Becca Shimmering Skin Perfector in the shade Champagne Pop, and so it's a liquid highlighter basically. And when I first got this, I bought it in a duo with the powder version of this highlighter, and I love the powder version, still to this day one of my favorite powder highlight formulas ever. But I felt like this, compared to that, just wasn't really doing it for me. And at the time, this was like probably 3 years ago at this point, like it's been a few years and my preferences have definitely changed. But at the time I was really into a very blinding metallic highlight. I wanted a highlighter that like really showed up. I could like see it on my skin. And I felt like this was too subtle. Like it was so subtle that I felt like it barely showed up. But I don't know what I was thinking, because now I love this. It's so pretty. You just need the tiniest little swipe of this, and it doesn't look like you're wearing highlighter, which is, to me now at least, to me that's a good thing. There's no like really obvious shimmer or sparkle to this, but it just gives your skin this beautiful, natural looking sheen. It looks like it's coming from your skin. It doesn't look like you're wearing a product to make it look highlighted. It's just, oh, it's so beautiful. I don't know why I didn't like this at first. It's not that I didn't like it, I just felt like it didn't really do anything, but I was wrong. Nowadays, I can appreciate a really strong highlight, but I also love a more subtle, lit from within, you know, looks like your skin's natural glow kind of highlighter, and that is what this is, and I love it. You really can't go wrong with it. It just always looks good. So I am sorry. I feel like I owe this product an apology, because I just didn't understand its beauty when I first tried it, but now I know. All right, let's chat about a product that I changed my mind about in the opposite way. This is one of only 2 products in this video that I kind of fell out of love with. It's the Flower Beauty Blush Balm in Pinched. I never thought I would say this. When I first got this product, I thought it was the most amazing blush to ever hit the market. I thought there was nothing like it had ever existed before, and my life was forever changed, because this was also one of the first cream and or liquid products that I tried back in like 2019 when I was first really getting into cream products. I think a lot of us were really getting into cream products at that time. And this was one of the few at the drugstore. Everybody was raving about it. And now I'm sitting here trying to figure out what it was that I liked so much about it, because this barely shows up on my skin. And I don't know if it's expired and that's why, but I mean, I will put on a pretty generous amount, and you'll see here in the demo. Today I blended it out with a brush, and I felt like it was almost like the brush like took it all away, which normally is not the case with any kind of cream product. I feel like brushes generally do the best job not picking up too much of the product or shearing it out, whereas sometimes a sponge will kind of soak it all up and you'll lose that pigmentation. But for some reason, with a brush, it just kind of blended away to nothing on my cheeks. So then I added a little bit more, tapped it on with a finger, and I felt like that's the best way I think to use this product, is to just tap it out with a finger, because that just kind of maintains the coverage. But I'm underwhelmed by this, and I think part of that might be that nowadays I do like more of a strong blush. I did end up adding more powder blush on top. I ended up putting some of the e.l.f. primer infused blush in Always Cheeky on top of that, just because I needed more. I think that might be part of it, but I feel like at the time I remember this showing up more on my cheeks. I don't mind a subtle blush, but this is more than subtle. It's almost like non-existent, and I don't know. A few of you guys have told me that you've had a similar experience with this, where you feel like it's kind of lost pigment over time, so maybe it's just gone bad, but I don't know. I mean, I've already used so much of it that I actually am considering putting this into my project pan at some point this year, because I feel like I could pretty easily use the rest of this up. But part of me is just thinking I kind of just want to declutter this because I'm just not enjoying it. I feel like it doesn't do anything. It's just not doing it for me anymore, so I've definitely fallen out of love with this. Maybe I could use it to mix with other blushes to sheer them out, but I don't really know if I need that type of product in my collection. So yeah, this might get decluttered. We'll see. I'm gonna keep thinking about it, but yeah. Okay, let's talk about an eyeshadow palette that I really grew to love recently. This is the Urban Decay Naked Wild West palette, and I gave this a pretty good review. I did a 3 looks 1 palette on it when I first got it, and you know, I liked it, but I just wasn't wowed by it, and I think I even talked about this in a high-end products not worth the money video that I can link for you. It was a few months ago. I think this was back in November, I guess. And this is, I guess I'll show you the inside of the palette. I think the main thing for me, I still stand by the fact that it's not worth the money. I think this is like $50, and I just feel like for the quality, that's a little overpriced. For it to be priced the same as an ABH palette, which I still love the ABH palette formula, by the way. I know they haven't been as popular in recent years. I still love my Norvina palette, my Soft Glam palette. I think it's still one of the best high-end eyeshadow formulas that I've tried. And I do feel like Urban Decay could probably up their game in the eyeshadow formula department. Like, I probably wouldn't pay more than $30 for this, but they do frequently go on sale, these naked palettes. So anyway, I digress. When I changed my mind about this was when I put it into my makeup basket in December. And I put it into my makeup basket around the holidays because I was realizing, you know, it's got some red and green tones, some silver, some gold. It's just a good palette for the holidays, even though it's not really, I wouldn't have thought that when I first got it. And I put it in my basket along with my ABH Sultry palette, which I love. I ended up actually, I think, reaching for this more than Sultry when they were both in my makeup basket at the same time, which surprised me because I would have guessed that I would have reached for Sultry more, but I ended up finding this color story really inspiring and really useful. I'm wearing it today, a very soft look, but this is one of my favorite looks to do with this palette. I just got a mix of both of these beige colors in my crease, Spur and Nudie, and then I put Laredo, which is this kind of medium taupey gray, in my outer corner. And then I'm wearing both the silver and the gold on my lid. I tapped the gold kind of in the center and the silver in the like inner third of my lid, and I love the kind of mixed metal sort of effect of that. I normally wouldn't think to put both silver and gold on my eyes at the same time, but I feel like the two pair really well together, and I just feel like this palette does a great job kind of combining both warm and cool tones. You've got some really warm, rusty, reddish browns, and then you've got some teals and some very cool grays and silvers. And when I first got this, I think I mainly would either go warm or cool with it. I wouldn't really combine the two very much, but now I've really come to appreciate kind of pairing both together, and I think this palette just kind of inspires me to do different kinds of looks than I normally would. I love these deeper reds, I love the teals in here, I just think it's a kind of fun and unique palette. So I'm still not saying that, oh yes, you should go run out and buy this at full price. I still don't think it's worth full price. But if this color story inspires you, I would definitely think about picking this up when it goes on sale for like half off, because I have actually gotten quite a bit of use out of it. The formula really is not bad. There's really not a dud shade in here, but these two shimmers, Hold'em and Cowboy Rick, the two that I have on my lid, I really like the way that they look on my eyes, but they're kind of flaky and dry. And they're just not, they're nothing compared to like the shimmers in my ABH Norvina palette, which are my favorite shimmers of all time. These are just, you know, they're a little bit dry, a little bit flaky, but when they're on my eyes, I feel like they have this pretty, like, sort of wet looking effect to them. And they're a little bit shifty, especially that silver. It's almost got this somewhat purpley undertone to it that's just kind of unique. So, you know, I don't love the feel of those shadows when I pick them up on my finger. I feel like they could be a little bit more moist, creamy, I don't know. But I can't deny that they do make for a really pretty look. So anyway, not my favorite formula of all time, but at the same time, it's not a bad formula, and I really like this color story. So I feel like I've kind of changed my mind about this palette. It's kind of like climbed up a few rungs on the ladder of my palette rankings, which I am planning on doing an updated palette ranking video soon, so stay tuned for that. All right, last product I wanted to talk about. This is the only other product that I have kind of fallen out of love with. I just don't like it as much as I used to, and this used to be an absolute holy grail, and it's the Pixi Glow Mist. I currently have the Pixi Rose Glow Mist, which I've tried both the rose and the regular. They're both the same, it's just the rose one has a rose scent to it, and I just have mine in a different bottle because the nozzle stopped working well. But this setting spray, I used to think it was the most magical, amazing setting spray of all time, and I still like it, but I think there's probably a better one out there for me now as my preferences have shifted a little bit. So this is a really great setting spray for dry skin. Mine is actually almost gone. I think this might be an empty soon. It's actually currently in my project pan, so we'll see. This might be empty in my next project pan update. This is a very glowy kind of finishing spray, and it does have oil in it. Like when you look at the product, there's like a layer of oil and then a layer of like the other liquid, and you kind of want to shake it up before you apply it. And if you go overboard with this, your face will be looking so shiny to the point where it's almost like too shiny. And I used to feel like there was no such thing as too shiny, but now I just feel like it's a little bit too much sometimes. I've still been enjoying it in the winter. I do feel like there's kind of a time and place for this product, especially when my skin's really dry. And I do really like how it gives my skin this almost like filtered glowy effect. So I still remember what I liked about it, but I just feel like nowadays I would prefer something a little bit less extreme in terms of glow. So I'm kind of on the hunt for a new glowy, but not too glowy finishing spray. If anybody has any recommendations, let me know. I really liked the e.l.f. Dewy Setting Spray, and I think that's now called their Dewy Coconut Setting Mist. It's in like a different bottle. So I might repurchase that, but if anybody has any other suggestions, let me know, because I'm kind of in the market for another kind of glowy finishing spray once this one is gone. But yeah, I don't know. This will be my second bottle of this that I've gone through, and it's served me well over the years, but I think that I've kind of shifted to more somewhere in the middle, a middle ground between really glowy and really matte. These days I'm kind of just into more of like either like a satin matte or just a skin-like natural finish. I don't need my skin to look like it's dripping in sweat in order for it to still look soft and hydrated. You know, I feel like there's a middle ground. It seems like the beauty community does this too, where a few years ago we were all about the matte full coverage foundations, like back in 2015, 2016. Then we were all like, oh no, too matte, it's too matte, let's go in the opposite direction. And then it was all about dewy, glowy skin tints. And now I'm really liking the trend that we're headed into now, where companies are trying to release more like medium coverage products that have just a natural skin-like finish rather than a super dewy, glowy finish or a super full coverage. It's, we can have something in between that's kind of the best of both worlds. So anyway, I don't know what kind of tangent I'm getting off on here, but those are all the products that I wanted to chat about today. Let me know, have there been any products that you've changed your mind about, whether it be for better or for worse? I would love to hear about it in the comments below. But otherwise, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you've not already. I'd love to see you again soon, and hopefully I'll talk to you again very soon in my next video. Bye.